Hi, my name is Victor Bell, and I'm an illustrator for Diamond Games. Today, I'm giving you a behind-the-scenes look on how I created a rifleman illustration.
So I'd like to take you a little bit through my workflow. Now, as an illustrator, we oftentimes step away from our work to come back with fresh eyes. And one of the things I usually do is have a moment to reorientate myself with the images, where my layers are, if there are any things I can move around or switch. And then I start blocking out the rest of the image. As you see, the image is far from finished, but that's okay. It gives me a moment to simply play. And here I'm just adding some buildings in the background, maybe something that would look better than what I have, something closer to the camera, something that feels slightly more, not chaotic, but almost claustrophobic. And little by little, I start adding more detail to it. Now, one of the important things to remember when doing or making art is that it's a patience game. That it requires patience, but also bravery to start again. If something is not working, you should just start over. It might not be something all artists can or would be brave enough to do. But for example, my initial idea of blocking out the background, it wasn't working. So instead of making my life more difficult, I start sketching in the background. I start thinking about what type of buildings would there be. Would there be a building fallen over? Would it be very sci-fi, or is this an area of the city that is perhaps not as technologically developed? Is there a warehouse, a shopping center? I started inventing a story for myself as I add all these different elements in. Now, while I'm sketching this, I do have a little checklist in my mind. For example, one of them is how much of the background will eventually be visible for the audience. Because even though I'm having a lot of fun, the idea is not necessarily that there should not be anything. But I keep in mind that most of it, if not everything, will be blurred out. However, I keep in mind that there should be some detail that the people can decipher if they look carefully enough. A good thing about working digitally is that if you make a mistake, you can simply take a few steps back, just start over. It doesn't matter, especially not if it's not finished. Doing this in the early stages of a design will save so much time in the long run, because imagine I finished this entire painting, colors, lights, details and all, just to realize that it's not working. Erasing a few lines takes a lot less time than erasing an entire color palette and a mood and an atmosphere. So keeping this in mind, it gives a lot of freedom when designing things. As you see, I've managed to fill up the scene quite a bit, right? It's looking nice and busy. It looks like something has happened here, something chaotic. Why are there barricades there? Why is the street broken up? Why are the light posts and the traffic lights slanted? What went wrong here? And this is already in the sketch a feeling that I tried to represent. Then it's time to start adding some color. Now keep in mind, I want the image to look cohesive. So I start by color picking colors from the background to color in the buildings and to separate different elements from them. It might not be the actual color of the building yet, but it helps me visualize the atmosphere, the mood, perhaps where the shadow should be, where the light is coming from. And little by little, you can see that all the different elements start to become visible throughout the image. What you also see me do is that I'm jumping around on the page. For the most part, this has become an automatic thing, but the base from it is simply to give myself clean areas to work on. If you focus too much on one single point of the image, you'll start to become blind, because the more you look at it, the more your eyes will get used to it. So hopping around on the page will help me identify things that should be better, a different color, simply because the entire image, like a puzzle piece, starts to come together. And little by little, it starts to become exactly what I had in mind. An empty, chaotic street where something might have happened.
Bye.